Village of Whately Plan Commission meeting for Thursday, May 23rd is called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Dorband.
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson, I am here. Commissioner Powers.
Here.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Present.
Commissioner Stylen gave prior notice?
Yes, he did.
Is absent with prior notice, and our new Commissioner Zangara is also absent with previous notice to us, and Chairman Raffato.
Here. Thank you. Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Okay. Citizens' concerns and comments. Do we have any at this point? No one signed up? Okay, thank you. We'll address your concerns if you're here for one of the petition items, the dockets. We will address your concerns at that time. Consent items, docket number SCBA 13-12, Mesner Place, 1300 South Wolf Road and 281 through 331 Mesner Drive. Appearance approval of a freestanding sign. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
With a comment.
Sure.
In the picture there, it's not indicated how many daylilies they're going to be putting in. The little dots don't really tell us a whole lot. I'm imagining that there's someone between 25 and 30. How do we adjust that so they don't put, 2 or 3 in there? Because according to this, and when I read the code, it does say that it meets the code, but there's no specifics.
We can just double check with them and make sure that they're planning to fill that area. Daylilies do tend to creep after the first year, so there's probably some minimum spacing that they start with, but we'll double check with them and make sure that
Well, I understand they creep, but my point is, I don't want to start out with 3 in that area.
All right, we'll double check with them and make sure that they're filling the area to start.
Thank you.
One more comment?
Sure. Yes.
Can you go back to the sign, Andrew? It says 281 to 331, but on the bottom of the sign it's 339. Is that just pictorial error? Is there a 339? Is that a unit number or is that part of the address?
I don't know. I would imagine that if it is an error, they'll correct it when they manufacture the sign.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We had a motion previously.
We had a motion by
Johnson.
Commissioner Schaaf and a second by Commissioner Johnson. Please take roll.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, I vote yes. Commissioner Dorband.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Commissioner Stylen is absent, and Chairman Raffato.
Yes. And Commissioner Zangara.
And Commissioner Zangara is absent, yes.
Thank you. Items for review, docket number 2013-2, referred back to the PC to the Plan Commission at the February 25th, 2013 board meeting. Stella's Place, formerly Maxine's, 255 East Dundee Road, special use, and site plan approval for a sit-down restaurant. Mr. Jennings.
I'm catching up on the last one.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The docket in front of you, 2013-2, was previously in front of the commission. Having received a negative recommendation, it went to the board. At that point, during the board review, the petitioner requested that the item be tabled and referred back to the Plan Commission. The petitioner had, during the original Plan Commission review, there were a number of concerns. The petitioner requested an opportunity to return to the commission and address the concerns that were raised at the hearing. At this point, as a matter of procedure, this is not technically a public hearing. However, because it follows the general format of a public hearing, we would like to proceed to let the petitioner present and then open it up to questions and comments from the public.
Thank you. Could you give your name again and your address, please?
Sure. Nick Vittori. The address is 1 West Dundee, Buffalo Grove. Good evening. We had requested to come back to the Planning Commission after the initial vote that was, like Andrew said, not a positive vote. And instead of appealing directly to the Board of Trustees, we did want to try to address the concerns that the Planning Commission had in a hopes of working together like we had when we did the Wheeling Shopping Center development. We do want to move forward in a way that hopefully we do get an eventual approval from the Board of Trustees and we've addressed concerns of the community. So the hot button item that was circulating around this issue when this matter first came up was the parking at the shopping center and the parking pressures there in the corner. Now, the streets surrounding Willie and Center Avenue, it is no longer legal to park on the street for more than, I believe it's an hour and a half. Andrew, is that what it is? I can't recall.
I believe so.
There's a time constraint on it. So as a result, the concern with employee parking from the grocery store as well as the surrounding tenants has been addressed in the sense that they are no longer allowed to park there. And we have rented space across the street at Solex College to accommodate those employees and tenants. We do see a lot of use of Solex College when I'm there. We have increased parking around the perimeters of the shopping center as well, with the help of the village to come up with a more strategic parking lot layout to accommodate some of these employees. And in terms of the parking matter, it is not 100% perfect, but with these items that we've moved forward with, and now we've had a few months to see them play out, we do think that it is a more positive situation over there in terms of parking.
Mr. Vittori, you may not know this, but we did have the materials from Laredo address the other issue of the concept of the business as well. So
Sure.
if there's a transition.
Gary's going to speak to any tenant matters. So I would, Gary and I had talked briefly before here. He said that any landlord issues I'm here to speak to, and any concept or tenant-specific matters, he's happy to address as well. So if there's no questions, I can hand it over to Gary.
And that mouse does operate. You can
Okay,
flip through.
great.
So if you give your name again. and
Gary
address.
Leff, address?
Yes.
5456 North Lakewood, Chicago, Illinois. Our concept, last time we spoke of Maxine's, we have two concepts. Maxine's, we've changed to our concept Stella's Place, and the reason being is our Maxine's concept is positioned more as a wine bar. Stella's Place, which I'll get into, and we now have a place built out and we have real pics, and you'll get a sense of what it's all about. It's really a cafe, and it's an adult cafe. It's a place for adults to get away, not go to a bar environment. We have a great coffee program, espresso program, great light bites, things like sliders and flatbreads, full breakfast of cinnamon rolls, breakfast sandwiches, and it's definitely positioned more of a coffee bar cafe than it is a wine bar. And so that was the reason for the change of Stella's Place versus Maxine's. The proposed floor plan has not changed, so it's still 31 seats. As you'll see, we have the cafe in the front and we have the entertainment area towards the rear. This is Stella's Place, and it's similar presentation to what we showed you before, but now it's Stella's versus Maxine's, and we're showing real pics. This is our Hoffman Estates location, which is just recently completed construction. We are not open yet. We're waiting for our licensing, but we hosted an open house out there a couple of weeks ago and had a really positive reception. So you can see here, looking out from the front door, that's the cafe area up front, and we have a lightly screened entertainment area in the back. We spoke to our experience before. we're restaurant and hospitality professionals. I've been in the business for over 25 years. Our VP of Operations, Charity John, has been in the business for over 25 years, and we have close to another 50 years of restaurant and hospitality experience within our organization. Some of the things that we've been involved with, I founded Stir Crazy, which many of you may be familiar with. One of our first locations was at Northbrook Court. And Charity was VP of Operations for Cozy, which is a sandwich chain with 140 locations nationwide. She was there for 10 years, and previous to that was a VP of Operations at Jamba Juice and a senior manager at Starbucks. These are some of the pics, again, from Stella's. Again, it's a neighborhood cafe and gathering place for adults to enjoy a light meal and a glass of wine, beer, and gaming in the comfort of a professional and friendly environment. And here you can see on the upper left, that's sort of more of the loungy area. The cafe area, you can't see you can see the cafe tables up front on both sides, and Wheeling, the one in Fresh Farms would have a very similar feel and layout. I think the dimensions are slightly different, but other than that, what you see is what we would build. And it's a significant investment. This isn't something we're just popping up. We've put a lot of thought and effort into the experience. These are more pics. This is the cafe area up front. You know, as you can see, it's got a contemporary take on mid-century modern. Our menu, light bites up on the upper corner, things like chicken wings and spinach artichoke dip and hummus, and then we have sliders, beef sliders, chicken sliders, meatball hoagie sliders, flatbreads, sandwiches, and breakfast sandwiches, etc. As I said, and I said beer and wine only. Our demographic is, again, it's 21 and over. We see it being an older demographic, skewing a little bit older, 35 to 75 plus. It's more likely to skew female. Again, this is for adults that want to go out and have a relaxing environment, but not a bar environment, not be around heavy drinkers or loud noise. We're doing things in addition to the gaming in the back. We want to offer other entertainment options, so we will have iPads that people can use, up to a dozen iPads for people to hang out, read the news, maybe play some free game, check the sports. So again, it's a social environment for people to come in, and it's not just about the gaming in the back. And this is just our design team, and now that we have a real space built out, I think it speaks for itself. But DMAC is an award-winning Chicago design firm. They did all the venues at Rivers Casino, and I put Rivers on my experience. I'm not involved in the gaming side of that, but I developed all the restaurant and hospitality venues out there. And as you can see, they're nice, well-done venues. And that's basically our pitch. So, we're locally owned. I live in Chicago. Charity lives in Highland Park. We're close. We're on site. We have a passion to deliver only the best experiences. We think this is a unique and attractive experience for residents of the community and visitors alike. And we also think it'll generate good tax revenues for the city of Wheeling. Questions? Comments?
Right now, we're going to open it up to the citizens. So if you wait. We have a list of people that have signed up to speak. We'll go with those first. If somebody did not have the opportunity to sign up, I'm not going to say no. So if you're not on the list and you still want to speak, don't worry, you'll get the opportunity. Thank you. And please limit your speaking to 5 minutes. Thank you. Andrew?
Our first speaker is Mary Papantos.
Good evening.
Could you just give your name and address again, please? Thank you.
Mary Papantos, 409 Hickory Drive here in Wheeling. On January 10th, I stood before this Plan Commission for the same reason that I'm here now. Since that time, we have 2 new Plan Commissioners, one of whom is here. Hopefully, not only did you get a chance to read the findings of fact, but to watch the video, because I think that would probably give you a much better idea of what was said. As you all know, you voted against, 5 against, 1 for the Maxine's concept, which is now Stella's, so if in my prepared speech I didn't know we changed the name until yesterday when I read the agenda, because it wasn't online until yesterday. Also, as Mr. Jennings indicated, the developer came before the board, or was on the agenda for the board in February, and at that time it was tabled and sent back to the Plan Commission. But the residents who were there, and there were many of us at the board meeting, weren't given a reason why it was sent back. We'd like to address this issue once again. At that meeting, there was a letter in the packet from Laredo Hospitality. Mr. Leff, I believe you signed the letter, indicating that in response to limiting the hours of operation to 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and Friday to Saturday 8 to 12 a.m., the petitioner stated, in order to support our economics, we need the ability to operate during all liquor license hours. In other words, the petitioner is adamant that they will be open 19 hours a day from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. The village board did not comment on it since they sent it back to you, but that was one of the conditions that the PC had suggested, was to limit the hours. I have been told that the petitioner feels that the parking situation in the Fresh Farms development has been alleviated, and therefore the PC should approve this special use. The fact is, parking was only one concern. The larger concern is whether any establishment that serves alcohol should be located in a residential neighborhood less than 2 blocks from an elementary school. The NTSB recently proposed lowering the legal limit for blood alcohol content while operating a motor vehicle to no more than 0.05%. During a news interview, a representative of the NTSB explained that 0.05% would be equivalent to a 130-pound woman consuming 2 glasses of wine in a 1-hour time period. An individual with 0.05% blood alcohol content would be considered impaired under this new guideline. Please consider this scenario. A group of females who work third shifts stop at Stella's on their way home from work at 7:30 a.m. They have a light breakfast, 2 or 3 glasses of wine, gamble a little, and then head home. One or more exit the shopping center on Willie Avenue and head south. They could conceivably be driving through a school zone while children are walking and being dropped off. No impaired driver should ever be in a school zone. One of the questions to be considered when granting a special use is whether or not the location and size of the special use, the nature and intensity of the operation involved in or conducted with it, the size of the site in relation to it, and the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it will be in harmony with and will not impede the normal, appropriate, and orderly development of the district in which it is located and the development of the surrounding properties. In this case, homeowners and residents surrounding the area feel that the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it will not be in harmony with it and will impede the normal, appropriate, and orderly development of the district. Another requirement for granting a special use is that the request will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted, nor diminish nor impair property values of surrounding properties. In this case, since motor vehicle ingress-egress is directly across from residential property, we feel this special use will be injurious to the use and enjoyment of property in the immediate vicinity. Yet another question when considering the validity of a special use is, will visitors to the special use access the site through residential streets? In order to travel westbound on Dundee, Fresh Farm development patrons must exit via Willie Avenue, a residential street. Ingress to the Fresh Farm development for westbound Dundee road traffic is via Willie Avenue. The petitioner conveniently avoided responding to this question. The petitioner has stated that this establishment will be low impact. Previously, the petitioner stated that estimated village revenue based on tax of net gambling proceeds will be $40,000 annually. Please note, this does not include revenue from food and drink sales. This means the petitioner is expecting net gaming revenue of $800,000 annually. This does not seem to be low impact to me. I also don't know of any restaurant or cafe that wants to be low impact. You have to turn over those tables to stay in business. In conclusion, I'm not against the video gaming concept. In fact, I wish you success in your endeavor. However, in my opinion, this establishment does not belong in a residential neighborhood. One more point, not everyone here tonight is comfortable with public speaking, but I would ask individuals who aren't going to speak if they would stand if they're in agreement that this does not belong in this center. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings?
Christine Dogopole.
Christine Dalgopole, 216 Center Avenue, Wheeling. I've lived at that address for all but about 10 years since 1949, have served over 6 years on the Plan Commission, was instrumental in developing Wheeling 2000, put the Economic Development Commission, wrote the bylaws and operating procedure, even though that commission was eventually abolished. Before I start, I'd like to applaud Mary's knowledge of the special use code. She has laid out a very coherent explanation of why the fact that the petitioner did not address the issue of harm to the neighborhood. And being a little bit snarky, because I've been called that many times, and I don't want to, detract from that to any of my detractors. Isn't it ironic that this agenda was not posted on the village website until yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, after at least 2 phone calls to community development? Meetings being held at the start of a long holiday weekend when many people have already gone away. We had twice the number of residents at the first public hearing and at the village board. And last but not least, after the village election. Okay, as expected, the petitioner only addressed the issue of parking, yet the 19-hour operation of this establishment is the one I am most concerned about. There are 2 empty units in this massive, overbuilt shopping center. Both larger corner units which have been empty since the center was completed. I'm sorry, but when I was employed, I retired 18 years ago, I did public speaking all the time, and it hasn't come back.
Could you lower your microphone so
Okay.
I can hear you a little bit better? Thank you.
The 19-hour operation is the one I'm most concerned about. There are 2 empty units in this massive overbuilt shopping center. I can't keep saying, I want to keep saying that all the time. Both of these larger corner units have been empty since the center was completed. Both of those units face residential streets. The unit the petitioner wants to fill is an N unit, which is on Willie Avenue, a residential street. 2 homes which have been there for well over 50 years not only face the loading docks and that traffic, they'll be able to look right in the huge window which fronts Willie Avenue. One of the ladies who expected to be here became very ill this morning, went to the doctor, she's home in bed. The closest access to that unit is from the residential Willie Avenue. Being open for 19 hours a day from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. impacts on the homeowner's privacy with traffic, lighting through that huge window, noise early in the morning and late at night with customers going in and out, customers smoking on the sidewalk at all hours, and even though at the previous meeting you recommended a bench in front of the liquor store, we know people are going to go outside and stand right in front of that storefront and they're going to smoke and leave cigarette butts on the sidewalk and on the grass. And customers smoking on the sidewalk at all hours and customers who have been drinking at all hours. Shopping center traffic exiting onto Dundee Road is difficult, with Dundee Road traffic trying to catch a green light at Milwaukee and cars trying to get in and out of the center. Cars will start going through the rest of the neighborhood onto Center Avenue to get in and out. Now this is, I debated about this next part, but I have to bring it up. There have been 2 recent shootings in Wheeling, one gang-related. And I'm concerned that between gambling and drinking late at night and early morning, there could be incidents that could easily result in more trouble. A payday loan business across from the center could cause residents to borrow money they shouldn't, more foreclosures would occur, and the village's reputation could very well suffer. Having this type of business in a neighborhood shopping center is just a plain bad idea. It belongs someplace like the Westin Hotel, where there is a built-in customer base, easy access to and from Lake Cook Road and Milwaukee Avenue, or Riverside Plaza, with access from Dundee or Milwaukee, and no neighborhood next to either one. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings?
Ed Delaney?
I'm Ed Delaney, 1 Milwaukee Place, 100-203. I have a very short presentation. We have a lot of empty seats here. The last meeting I attended, it was quite full. And the reason could be, I received my letter yesterday, and it was dated the 22nd. No, the 20th. And I opened the letter 10:30 at night. Now, that doesn't give many people a chance to be here or be aware of the situation at all. And I think that should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings?
Georgia Delaney?
My name is Georgia Delaney. I live at 100 North Milwaukee, Unit 203. I am a member of the Senior Commission, and I agree with Mary's eloquent speech in complaints about this, about the business hours. The school is still there. It hasn't disappeared. The children are walking there, and now it's summertime, and the children are out playing. They're not going to be careful. And their business hours are long. People are coming and going. But when they pull in and they're going in to eat and gaming, they're going to be sitting there for a few hours. It's not like there's going to be traffic coming and going and shopping at the other stores there. They'll be sitting in there for hours. And then the parking is so bad. We live across the street. We're afraid people are going to come and park in our property, even though we have signs up that it is private property, because we have other problems with that, of people coming and going in our property. And with the alcohol consumption, we're afraid of the children and anybody else getting injured with the lower values now that they put on for what's considered DUI. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more. I believe it says Jerry Liebman.
You know, for the petitioners that are here, if they could possibly put down their cell phones and listen to the people that are talking, that would be very appreciative.
My name is Jerry Lippman. I'm on the board of directors of the 1 Milwaukee Place Condominium Association, and I represent 144 units across the street from the proposed establishment that is on the docket. I understand that supposedly the parking situation has been addressed because they are going to be renting space from Solex across the street, kitty corner from the Fresh Farm Shopping Center. However, I do feel that that's going to be more of a problem for our residential property because people aren't going to want to walk across Milwaukee and Dundee to get into the Fresh Farm Shopping Center. It's a long trek for them. They're going to park across the street on our property and just have to cross Dundee Road to get to the proposed restaurant facility. So I think it's going to be more of a problem with parking than just the residential area on Willie because of the fact that people aren't going to want to park at Solex and trek that far to come to gamble and have breakfast. So that's my main concern. Obviously, the additional concerns that have been addressed already are the hours and the proximity to the grammar school. And for that reason, we also oppose the proposed variation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that didn't sign this that would like to speak? No? Okay, thank you. Yes. Please come up here and give your name and address. And
my name is Kathy Pastorello. I live at 148 Center Avenue, and I've lived in this neighborhood for 45 years as a little kid. I went to Holmes Middle School, which was a junior high at the time. The traffic in this area is atrocious. The parking at Fresh Farms is ridiculous. It's worse now than it was before. I don't understand how you allowed the liquor store plus all those other stores around the corner of Fresh Farms to go in. Where the hell do people go? There's no place to park. The residents can't even park there. We have to walk over there to get our groceries and take a shopping cart home like they do at the, over at the apartments. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. I don't understand I realize that everybody wants to expand on the community. I think it's wonderful. But it's terrible at Fresh Farms now. You can't, you have to walk, I have to walk up 3 blocks to go grocery shopping, bring the cart home with me, and take it back to the store. Now, is that not an idiotic thing for people in our residential area? I think it's asinine, and something needs to be done.
would anybody else like to speak? There's another one.
I'm William McConnell. I live at 191 East Center Avenue. And I agree with everyone with what they've said in that, but I would like to add a couple of things. You've let a Dunkin' Donuts go in at the corner of Wheeling Avenue and Dundee. And now that, I want to call it like alleyway that goes behind the barber shop and that, is now open behind the barber shop and through the parking lot for the Dunkin' Donuts onto Wheeling Avenue. I leave for work at 7:30 in the morning. I have sat at the corner of Wheeling Avenue and Dundee Road for up to 20 minutes while someone has cut through there and wants to make a left turn out on the Dundee Road. That should be closed off because I guarantee you, you let this establishment go in where you say, and because of the fact that people will not be able to get out on the Dundee Road, they are going to be blocking all the other 2 streets, both Willie and Wheeling Avenue. Thank you.
No, I did not. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, thank you. We will now go to the commissioners. I'm going to start with Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andrew, what type of liquor license are they going after? You know? I mean, the hours are the hours of the liquor license they're going after, is it 7 a.m. to 2 a.m.? And would anybody like to respond? Is it still your intent to keep those hours, or I know that I was not on the commission at that time, but there was a recommendation to reduce the hours. Is it your intent to still ask for the 7 a.m. to 2 a.m.?
I mean, that is our intent. It's for a beer and wine license. We have a full coffee program and breakfast menu. We are not doing to-go, so we don't anticipate a lot of traffic of people coming in and grabbing coffee to go. We will not offer to-go. I completely respect the citizens' concerns on people drinking, and I know there's a school and that makes it extra sensitive. We think of ourselves as sort of the anti-bar for adults. You can grab a beer or a wine, a couple, but we don't want people to hang out and drink and get drunk. And we are willing to impose a drink maximum of 2 per hour and 3 total, because we do not want people hanging out there and drinking to excess. That's not our intent. There are breakfast establishments, I'm sure, in the community that have a liquor license and are able to serve liquor, but that's not why people come there. So I don't think we'll be serving a lot of alcohol in the morning. It's not really what our model's based on, and again, we're happy to put limits on that, but in order to make our economics work, we need to, the hours themselves are important to us.
Okay. The seating plan, I keep seeing the stipulation said 31 seats. I look at the plan, I see 28 and then 5 more in the back. So how do you arrive at 31 seats? I guess I'm looking at the main front dining room, I'm seeing 28 chairs. I mean, is that, what am I not understanding with that?
28. So we have, yes, in the front we would have, so we have 16 plus another 6, 22, 26, 28, although there's 2 seats, that's a handicap table, so that's really 30 up front. And
so it's not the 26, it's more like 30 or 31 in the front, right? So it's more like 35, 36 seats instead of 30, 31. Is that right?
yeah, I think the confusion is the 2 lounge seats right there weren't counted as dining seats, and so I think that's a dining seat count.
Okay.
And then the 5 gaming seats in the back.
Mr. Jennings, so those have to be counted as a total?
You know, I think that my memory is fuzzy, and I think that number, the 31 number, came from the public hearing. I think we were looking at this plan during that public hearing and came to the, they have a minimum number of seats required by the liquor code, and I think that we were coming up with 31 based partially on that because of the concern over parking at that time. So I don't know that this plan actually shows 31. I think
there's a discrepancy. I apologize.
I think it was part of the discussion, actually.
Yeah.
Well, but this shows somewhere around 38, if I count that thing in the back. How does, that needs to be resolved because that impacts parking.
16, 20.
I can look at the findings real quick and see if I can figure that out.
Well, but this plan
So it would be 33 with the seats in the back. I mean, depending on whether you count 2 extra for handicap. So it's, depending on you count it, I guess it could be up to 33 or 35.
Okay.
Yes.
How long is your lease at this location? You have a signed lease and ready to go?
We do have a signed lease. We've spent tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees and development fees, and the landlord has spent money as well. And again, so we owed it to ourselves and to the landlord to take the best shot here. I understand the citizens' concerns. I don't think we're going to be a heavy user of parking relative to a lot of other uses that could go in here. I'm confident that drinking will not be a concern, and we're willing to impose limits on that to address that concern. But yes, we have a signed lease and we have a lot invested in this.
What happens if this use isn't approved? What is it? Do you have a plan B?
We're working with the landlord. We don't have a plan B, and I don't believe the landlord has a plan B.
Okay.
Yeah, in the event that Gary does not receive the special use, our lease would essentially become terminated then, is what would happen, and as a result, we would go back out to the open market on that space. And I mean, we, as the landlord, have to fill the space one way or another, so we like this use particularly because it is a light, low-volume use, which obviously affects the grocery store, which the landlord's involved with, as well as the other tenants who are voicing a lot of the same concerns that everyone wishes there was more parking. But, you know, I would like to remind everyone that this center has been a commercial center, and it has been a grocery store for, 30-plus years in this area, and the parking situation before the redevelopment was less than ideal as well, and I don't think that we've stepped backwards from that. I can remember seeing people hitting other cars just pulling in and out of that lot. It was so tight. So we really like the light use here because I think that's what the need is over there.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I've reviewed, seen the locations like in Bartlett and Hoffman Estates through Google Maps, and I see them as being in shopping centers. And although this is going in a shopping center, I'm really concerned about, it being in a neighborhood. So that's concern. That's my biggest concern right now. And I just want to finish by thanking all the residents for coming out and offering their opinions.
Ma'am, when we're done, might give you an opportunity to speak. It's not required, but let the commissioners speak right now. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out and offering their opinions. I really do appreciate that, and I'll defer to the remaining commissioners, and they may have more questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Okay, under the new Stella's brand name, is this going to be like the one that you're working on in Lynn Plaza? Is this the same concept?
Yes. Yes.
So the same basic menu?
Yep. Yes.
Just down the street from each other, okay? Let's see, you answered that one already. A lot of the documentation that we got in our packet still refers to Maxine's, so we don't really have a new business plan or anything included in this.
We can forward this new presentation along.
Well, let's go back to the parking thing for a second then. I have a note here somewhere. I went by that shopping center Sunday at about 12:55 p.m. And although there was adequate space in front of the site we're talking about, when I drove around the back, I found 11 cars parked in the designated fire lane, another 4 to 6 in undesignated parking spots, and then of course you've got some spots along that drive-through that are marked as parking spots now. They're the possible future drive-through. That's a lot of cars that are where they shouldn't be. What would you do if we down the road had a drive-through there? You're going to lose those spots. You should be losing the spots in back where they're illegally parked. And we're talking about another 20
The
cars.
11 in the back, were they up against the fence line, or were they?
They were in the designated fire lane, so that would be on the fence side.
Because I think the last plan that I saw go back and forth, the fence line's been approved. The fire department's asked that we stripe the thoroughfare to make sure that cars don't stop. But if it is not, and they're legally, we can enforce. If it's not.
Well, the point
we'll
is,
enforce.
they're parked there right now, and it's marked fire lane.
There, just to clarify, there has been a change to what is approved at the shopping center. They're probably 70% of what they're supposed to be with respect to changing over the fire lane location. There are some requirements in the, there's a memo from the fire department that's carried over from the last review that lists out the specific deficiencies. So there are probably a handful of spaces. I think there are 6 that are still.
That are up in the air.
And those specific ones.
Well, then there's other parking spots along the building, and they were mostly filled too.
And the fire department memo was incorporated. So there is supposed to be a restriping based on the fire department requirements.
But to answer your question, in that case, if we were to lose more employee parking, for example, we would rely heavier on the Solex College arrangement that we have.
Well, it just seems like your employees, I assume it's the employees, are already going beyond what they're supposed to be doing by parking in designated fire lanes. I mean, whether it's going to be changed or not, right now it's called a fire lane. And they're also parking by the building side, so there is no fire lane existing.
I can certainly see if somebody is, and I can work with Andrew here to make sure that we understand where, if people are not parking where they're supposed to, we can certainly enforce it if that's.
Well, the issue seems to be that even if there is a change, they're parking in a fire lane where it's designated now and it's not being enforced. And it seems to be, if Commissioner Johnson saw it before.
I saw it yesterday and today too.
Enforce it. Enforce your parking.
I understand, but I think along that fence line, if that's what we're referring to, I believe that's we're allowed to park there, according to my conversations with the fire department. Now, if I'm wrong, we will enforce it.
And before you go any further, I just want to make a comment since you're up here.
Uh-huh.
And you talked about parking.
Uh-huh.
And your statements were about parking, and you seemed to indicate that I can't remember the words that you said. And I'm not sure how this board is going to vote tonight, this Plan Commission.
I understand.
But if you look at the facts and findings that were from the public hearing, there was one yes vote, and all the rest voted no. And all the rest, the common theme was its use. So parking, you're not asking for a variation on parking. So for you to assume that that was the reason that you came back here, I'm not certain that that was the right reason to go. And I'm not sure how everybody's going to vote here.
Right.
But please understand that you have to be able to enforce what you have right now,
In my response to that, Mr.
irrespective of what goes in there.
From the landlord's perspective, we can speak to the items that we can control, or that we have direct influence on. I can't control if Gary serves, sliders or chicken sandwiches. That's out of my control, obviously, because that's the tenant business. But as we look at this, in the last meeting that I was at, I do agree there was some conversation about use, but I know that Wheeling has approved this use in several other locations. And I know that there was a lot of discussion about parking, which does fall more on the landlord end. Now, this shopping center, we worked obviously with the village to build this, and we built it as per our agreement. And we have these 2 end caps that are now open, that were built and approved, and the parking layout and everything was approved as our agreement. Now, this is a use that, in our opinion, follows under our economic development agreement. And I don't know if we go back to the market, if I put a dentist in there, for example, which I don't think we would have the same turnout of citizen concerns, but I think the result would be a lot heavier traffic, for example, or a lot heavier parking pressure. We have a dentist down the street in Buffalo Grove that we manage. I see at least 10 to 12 cars there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, easy. My office looks onto the shopping center. And I don't, we're at a loss as well. We do not want to stress the parking pressure anymore. We want more parking. We want it to flow better in there. We want a light user. I heard a lot of parking concerns, and then I heard also that the Lynn's Plaza request got approved. So when I hear that, I think maybe the primary concern is parking. That is, but I understand that there's been some other concerns raised, and, we can speak to, whatever we can speak to.
Commissioner Johnson, please continue.
Thank you. Okay, we talked about the discrepancy in the seating. Oh, Andrew, did we count those 5 movable seats as seats last time?
The puffs? No.
Puffs, yes,
Poofs.
thank you, poofs.
Sorry. No, I was just looking at the plan and looking through the minutes of the last meeting. I could not tell from that exactly how the discussion went. We'd have to watch the video, but it looks like it's a discrepancy of about 2 from the front. So I think it's a plan that shows 33 and a discussion that was on 31.
Okay, thank you. How would you address this 3-drink maximum? How would you enforce something like that?
We would put up signs within our establishment. We would train our employees, and again, we don't expect this to be a packed place. So for us to manage that, we're used to managing drink policies in general, not necessarily maximums, but carding people, making sure people don't get out of hand. We're serving them, and that's something that we can easily manage and that we would be committed to.
I'm just wondering how that's going to work when you've got people waiting to use the gaming machines.
We just post a 3-drink maximum, and again, we're not,
Sorry, you can't play?
we don't want, sorry, we can't serve you another drink. Again, we don't think this is going to be an issue, and we're not doing this across other locations, but we are making sure that people don't drink and get out of hand. And so for us to limit it isn't really an impact on our business. If someone's in there as a heavy drinker, we prefer they go to a bar and hang out in a bar and game or do whatever they want in a bar environment. Our whole thing is we want to be an adult environment that's, a little more mellow and doesn't have people hanging out, getting rowdy, drinking. So that we're fine limiting that. That does not impact our business model, and I'm sure we'll lose some people that aren't happy with the 3-drink max, but that's something that is consistent with our thinking, and so that doesn't scare us, and we're more than happy to implement that policy.
That's all I had at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner Schaaf?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must apologize for leaving for a few minutes, but it was necessary. But thank you. I'm going to address some special use concerns. The first one is the gaming. There are, within a mile and a half, 2 other gaming establishments. Half a mile north at Jeffrey Lanes. PS Pub is 1.3 miles away. Stella's is coming in. Your answer to the special use, even in question 1, is that a sit-down restaurant with gaming, and I have a problem with that. It's not the only one in town. There are going to be 3 of them within a mile and a half. I don't like that it's in that location. I'm sorry that you have the residents' concerns, and I really have to
to listen to the residents, because it seems that nobody else is going to listen to them. Okay. The restaurant portion of this, it's not, to me, it doesn't seem to be a full-service restaurant. There doesn't seem to be a lot of kitchen activity, ovens, grills, anything like that. I wonder, is the limited use is going to, I think, depend on the gaming and not the restaurant. I've looked at the menu. It's not one that seems to be inviting. You do serve alcohol. There are problems with that concept.
Can I just respond to that?
Sure.
It is a limited menu of light bites and finger foods, things that you can eat with your hand. Again, whether you're gaming or playing an iPad or it's casual, it's a cafe. We do have an oven. We have a $10,000 oven that's a special oven that's multi-technology. We put a lot of effort into our food and beverage program. A lot of it is done off-site, so you are correct. We do not have a full kitchen. But I would say, flatbread pizzas, all different kinds of mini sliders, things like chicken wings, spinach artichoke dip, hummus. It's meant, and that's why I guess there's not, you're right, it's not, we don't expect to draw huge restaurant crowds. What we anticipate is drawing crowds that want to hang out, socialize in an adult environment, play, whether it's on an iPad or a game, and grab a light bite. So we don't expect a heavy use. Now, full service, we will come out and take orders at your table. But yeah, is it a full-blown restaurant? No, and that's why I think we believe it's a fairly light use on a relative parking basis.
Plus, you've got a lot of restaurants right around.
Yeah.
There are plenty of places to eat within a block and a half. Mm-hmm. You're right on Restaurant Row. Mm-hmm. So the use of the establishment that you're proposing, the only difference is the gaming, and there are other gaming. There is other gaming in the village. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to go on, or at least try to go on. I don't understand, Andrew, the removed obsolete exhibit that you talked about here at the end.
There's the original letter described
From the property owner?
From the restaurant. It described a number of seats that was originally proposed. There was little else in it.
Okay. So the venue is actually changed from a wine bar to a restaurant, such as you proposed it at Stella's.
Correct.
The only difference between this Stella's here at Fresh Farms and the Stella's at Lynn Plaza is the residents. Mm-hmm. And the school. You also have, in all deference to the property owner, and I know he wants to lease these two end buildings. The resident concerns and the Weston, perfect location, and I understand his need to rent those places.
And I appreciate the recognition of our need. In terms of the use and the proximity to the neighborhood, I know the Jeffrey Lane pub that has the gaming, if I'm correct, and that's
Yes.
close proximity to residential area, I believe. Is there a park?
Yes.
It backs up to where there's a lot of activity. I've from everything that I've seen in the paper and read, and I've not heard that there's been any issue with that use in a proximity such as that. And also with this use in the alcohol matter, I mean, the Westin has a liquor license, Bob Chin's has a liquor license. These places do serve breakfast. They are able, I don't know, the thing that I find a little bit difficult to swallow is the idea that this use is allowed throughout Wheeling, but not at our center because of the potential to increase traffic or that there's residents in the area. The people that use this facility will be Wheeling residents by and large. So the idea that riffraff will come in or this, I mean, these will be Wheeling, these are your neighbors. These are the people who will be using, that's who uses our center now, our local residents. So we don't want obviously we don't want to encourage a crowd in there that detracts from any of the other businesses, and we don't think it will. I mean, that's why we want to move forward with this use.
And I do have to say, I really don't think that the gaming portion of this is going to make a whole lot of difference, other than the fact that there's going to be increased traffic and more pressure on an already pressured parking area. That's my,
right. But I mean, I think,
but it's going to be the continual, the traffic right around Willie, right around Wheeling Avenue.
Right.
And that is a heavily trafficked area.
I agree with you. I agree with you. My fear is that this use, which will be a light use, gets denied, and then we are forced to go the direction of a heavier user, such as Illinois Dental, who we moved from Wheeling to Buffalo Grove, and we've been in discussions to move them back. That would be a much, much heavier user. And we would have no chance to even discuss that with the residents and come up with a different plan.
Yeah, but the only problem between a dentist and a restaurant that serves alcohol is a restaurant that serves alcohol. And not only do you have increased traffic, but even at 0.05%, the traffic is impaired.
I think the cat's out of the bag on that, though, with Restaurant Row, Bob Chin's, the Westin, Market Square.
These are suppositions. I agree.
Right, I know.
Suppositions.
I've had these same conversations trying to work through these matters. I know exactly what you mean.
And these are my concerns.
And I appreciate them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dorban.
Thank you. I'm going to address the standards for a special use. And the first one I will bring up is state why the special use is necessary for the public convenience. Really? I fail to see, and I want you to convince me why a gaming cafe is a necessary addition for the public convenience.
This use has been granted in other facilities in Wheeling, which had to obviously have a special use as well. And I don't know why people should not have the ability to go to a cafe where they can game. I don't see why that would not be allowed.
But why is it necessary? That's number one on the, statement, for a special use. And you're going to have to convince me why this is a necessary use.
I mean, I think that argument could obviously be used for any type of use, whether it was a restaurant. What's the necessary use of another restaurant or another dentist or another anything? I mean, I think it's obviously to people who are patrons of these types of establishments, it is necessary, and it is something that they would like to see in their community. So, I mean, I understand that the extreme nature of that conversation where you can say, we don't need another Subway, and we don't. But people who like to eat at Subway would say we do.
You did answer the question. I think that you have somewhat addressed the standard as far as parking to some degree by being rather creative with the parking. I'll give you that. But the other piece of this is it asks about, will it change the character of the area? And I believe it does change the character. of the area. Milwaukee and Dundee Road are it's right near the school where you want to be located. That's troubling to me, 2 blocks away. It's very close to residential. We've worked very hard on this commission, as well as the trustees, to build an upscale, raise the bar corner at Milwaukee and Dundee. We've worked very hard for that. Millions of dollars have been spent to create a much better look, feel good for the residents. And I have to tell you, putting a gaming facility in that area, I think detracts from it. And I'm very concerned about it. I think that the residents have a very good point. You know, they're very close. I think there's going to be issues. I think we're talking about people walking outside, smoking. A huge issue for me is the hours. I feel that a far better location also would be at the Westin. What about the vacated now store that's east of Milwaukee on the south side of the street? There's another location. I just am troubled by the feeling that we're now asking to put this establishment into something that we've worked so hard to build up and make look wonderful. And that concerns me a lot. I can't get my head around the idea of that this is not going to be a heavily used facility. I think it is. Yes, you know, you also in one of the letters, you mentioned the fact that other users have come before you to utilize your spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in a position to say what kind of uses?
I'm trying to think of other uses that we've had. This is a real use. That Illinois Dental Center is one that we have tried to discuss bringing back to the center, but he is a member of the Wheeling community, Dr. Jacob Lake, for a long time, and he's a great person, and we'd love to bring him back. This is too much parking. This is too much parking.
But according to your letter, you said several.
No, so yeah, we also had a rental car facility approach us as a front desk. Obviously, that's not going to work. We've had for that location, we had a few fast casual food users that wanted to come through there, but the use is simply too heavy. It's simply too heavy. And if you see across the street at Jimmy John's during lunch, it's packed. I mean, it's absolutely jammed over there.
Your parking lot's packed. I go by there several times.
Right.
And it's always packed. I mean, I don't know how I just can't imagine how this isn't going to be a heavy use, especially now that they've changed their menu. They've expanded it to be more of a cafe. I think, now not only are you going to get the gaming piece of it, but they're looking to get the cafe piece of it. So I think that's increased the usage.
Right, but this, there's not too much else I can say besides the fact that we will be, as part of Fresh Farms, we suffer the most financially from that. It would be a bad financial decision to put someone in that's a very, very heavy user that takes up parking. So we are not putting in anyone or want to put anyone that will take up a lot of parking, for example. We do not want to do that. It does not help us, it doesn't help the community. The community are our customers. We do not want that route. We want a light user. Now, if we were to go ahead and put Pete's Coffee or Starbucks in there, we wouldn't even need a special use, for example. So that would generate huge amounts of traffic. It would already be in there. I'd sign the lease, we would be open and running, and then we would be having a conversation of what to do about the parking. I think in this situation, we've heard the concerns of the community. We've addressed those to the best that I think any landlord is able to, and any tenant would be able to make this a workable situation, because at one point or another, that space will have to get rented. If it doesn't, it will have to get rented at one point or another.
My problem is that you just have not met the expectations of a special use. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings, we've talked about Jeffrey Lane and PS Pub. Have you talked to the police department? Have there been how long have those been open, and have there been any increased issues at those places?
You know, I don't remember the exact date that they opened. I know that they were, both of those establishments were kind of at the front of the list with the state because they were open and had an established liquor license, so they were eligible to apply, so they were early. I think PS Pub probably had theirs a little bit earlier than Jeffrey Lane's. We did check with the police department. There have not been any issues with either of the two since they started operating gaming.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We mentioned, the last time we were here, one of the conditions was the petitioner work with shopping center designated smoking area east of the unit. Has that been done?
If we do get approval on this tenant, we're happy to do that.
Where's it at?
I said I'd move it in front of the liquor store. I would move it, I guess I can move it.
I'd like to know where that is tonight. It was one of the conditions. My expectation would have been that would have been part of your presentation tonight, where that was going to be.
I would put it directly in the middle of the storefront for Liquor Barn. I have not purchased the bench or the cigarette receptacle, so I haven't put it in. And we would, I mean, I would be happy to look at direction from the board on that. We don't have a large item on, you know, we don't have a huge opinion on where that goes. I'm sure it would be placed somewhere reasonable.
And again, from January until now, we had an opportunity to do that, and I would have assumed that that would have come before us. That would have been part of this, this new packet.
And I also think that that is something we are willing to change as needed. Of course, if it's not working, we would move it.
So are we, an opinion on that as to where we should put it? Because apparently, you know,
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because how do we police that? And what if they don't do it? And what if they throw their cigarette butt? You know, they take a walk and they walk down the street and they throw the cigarette butts in people's yards. You know, how do we can't police that. I mean, it's just a bad situation. But my question is, how do we police it? How do we take care of it? And can fines be issued? I don't know.
Mr. Dorban, I agree with what you're going, I agree with where you're going. Unfortunately, I've seen other places, and other places that have designated smoking areas that aren't used. But at least we have to establish them.
Agree.
And then they have to be, there has to be enforcement. So,
but is this going, wherever we put this, isn't this going to be a problem for any patrons who go to any of the other stores who have to walk by people who are smoking on the street? You know what I mean? I don't know how to...
Well, it's got to be 15 feet away from, a minimum of 15 feet away from the entrance.
And if you guys recall on Liquor Barn, they have like 10,000 square feet of space. I think they took up somewhere around the equivalent of like 6 storefronts. So there's a large expanse of area there where people do not need to go. For example, if you pull in to go to Great Clips, most people pull in, walk straight into Great Clips. There's not huge amounts of traffic between Liquor Barn to Back to Nature, for example. So there obviously is some impact of passerbys, but there's a large space there that does not have entrances.
So let's make the condition that the designated smoking area will be in front of the storefront of Liquor Barn.
Do you honestly think people are going to walk 2 stores down to?
It's either that or in front of the nature place, and they go in the nature place because most likely they don't smoke. So my guess is that.
I think we are making.
I just can't see them walking.
No, they're making an attempt to do that, so we have to give them, we have to put that somewhere. We don't want it around the corner. So
Right.
that seems to be the best place, and it's got to be enforced.
Right.
It's got to be enforced. So that's where it'll be at. And you can work with staff as far as what a bench goes, and then I would probably like some type of receptacle outside of your garbage receptacle outside your entrance, because that, at least we can encourage them to throw away their garbage as they walk out. That would be helpful, so I'd like that in conditioned. I would assume everybody would agree with that. Hours of operation, it's been discussed on the Plan Commission, but one of the conditions last time we were here, hours of operation were limited to 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday. That's what the condition was. I'm going to take a poll right now. Is everybody still in agreement that that should still be in as a condition?
The original hours that we had as a condition?
Yes.
Yes.
9 a.m. to 11 Sunday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. on Friday and Saturday.
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Powers, yes. Commissioner Schaaf, yes.
Yes.
And I agree with that, yes. Okay. In addition, Mr. Leff talked about a drink max of 2 per hour, and 3
total.
maximum for your stay.
Correct.
Right. So I think we should put that as a condition also. Would you in
Agree.
agreement?
Yes.
Yes, in
Agree.
agreement, yes? Yes, thank you.
I just don't know how it would be.
Again,
No,
enforcement. Enforcement is, again, an enforcement, because we can go in together and he can have one drink, or he might not drink at all. We can go in together and he can get me 6 drinks.
I know I need to state my name.
State your name.
Charity Johns, address is 638 Glenview Avenue, Highland Park, Illinois. I'd like to just address that because I have to run the operation. And as the Vice President of Operations, I think there's a couple of things that I'd like to bring to your attention, at least that you'll know we'll be doing. One is all of our partners and folks who will be working for us, team members or partners or employees, if you will be trained in Bassett. Bassett training, as you're probably aware, because you've certainly probably heard that, allows you to look for the signs of alcohol, certainly knows you are to pay attention to your patrons and how many you've served them, how much food they're consuming, and how often. We're very, very familiar with monitoring that and going through those paces and paying for that program to be certified for all of our employees. It's something I take very seriously as well. You have children, I have children. So we wouldn't send somebody out into the environment that we haven't felt safe about. If we didn't feel they were safe, we would do the appropriate thing, which would be call somebody to get them home. But I don't ever find myself in that situation because our folks will be trained. And I'd like for you guys to be aware of that. It is not something we take lightly, nor do my operators. I would like to also maybe address your comment about this maybe not being a facility that helps uplift the center. You know, I've built a lot of restaurants in my day, and I have spent a lot of time and attention on trying to create an environment that people want to go to, spend time and relax. This is a place that I would go to. This is a place that I feel really, really good about going into. And it isn't about the gaming, that's just the form of entertainment that people enjoy there. It's about the environment, the people that we'll hire from the community that will take care of the guests and treat them very, very well. So I do think that it is a significant addition to any community or any center. And I just really wanted you to be aware that the time and the energy that we've put into this platform and to this cafe has been tremendous. And I just wanted the opportunity to let you know that.
Thank you. I guess the next question I have, Mr. Leff, and I think you explained this the last time, you talk about experience and based upon experience, but you haven't actually opened up a place here yet, okay? So your experience is based upon other states that have opened these.
Yes, and our charity and I's 50 years plus of experience operating in different environments for restaurant and hospitality.
Okay, so Just clarifying that. So tell me, how are you going to distinguish between Stella's and Stella's Place?
Stella's Place and Stella's are the same. We changed the name because of a trademark issue, and so it's Stella's Place and it's Stella's Place.
So somebody's going to say, hey, normally, you go to Chin's and there happens to be two Chin's. It seems odd that you would name them the same thing a mile apart. I'm just curious.
Yeah, but it is a small facility. Again, as we said, we don't expect a ton of traffic in each facility. I don't know how many Jimmy John's you can have in a mile radius, but I can guarantee it's at least 2.
Yeah, that's true.
Subway, Starbucks, it's a small facility. So for us, what it allows us to do to get critical mass in an area, it allows us to get better staffing, regional oversight. So there is a strategy to get density. It just allows us to operate better and more efficiently. And a mile, we're not asking to do it, but we could support, we're highly confident, probably 3 in this area within, we don't anticipate that the mile radius being an issue. In fact, we think there's some people that may come in, and someone on the board alluded it to before, for those who come in and do want a game with only 5 gaming machines, and if that's why they're there, they may not stick around for, an hour to wait or half an hour, whatever it may be. So having another facility that we can send them to, if that's what they're there to do, is synergistic for us. So we like the clustering.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, so are there any other comments from the board?
I would like to make a comment. I don't want to question your energy or your time that you've put into this because it's substantial, obviously. And I know that I suggested you going down to the west end or to another location. And I'm sure that those other locations, the square footage would cost you more money. However, I think in a bigger location, you would get a greater income and offset it. I don't want you to think that I don't appreciate the energy that's gone into this because it is a nice facility. It looks like a nice facility. It's just in a wrong place. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One additional comment is, as I read through the gaming regulations, it seemed that what Illinois was trying to do was put in gaming at established locations, PS Pub, Jeffrey Lane, those type of operations to increase income. That was my intent. That's the intangible that I got out of the regulation. There's why it has no bearing on this case. It's just what the regulations, to me, sound like.
And are you referring to the statewide regulation or to the wheeling regulations specifically? State? Well, I can say there's probably the...
Mr. Leff,
yeah.
I'm not going to argue state regulations.
Yeah, that's
It's
fine.
what it appeared to me.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You can probably sit down for now. I'm going to give an opportunity for the public to speak one more time, but I want it to be germane to what was discussed by the commission members or the petitioners. We know how everyone feels about it in the audience. Mostly everybody feels in the audience. So if you're going to come up here to say, I'm still against it, we completely understand that. But, so, does anybody want to speak on this subject again? Sure. And this is going to be 3 minutes, and I'm sticking to it, okay? Right.
Thank you. A couple things were brought up. making a comparison to Chin's, that they serve breakfast and alcohols. Chin's does not exit into a residential neighborhood. It's Milwaukee Avenue. Jeffrey Lane's, right on North Wolf, yes, the apartments are there, the complex is there, PS Pub is Dundee Road. I'd also like to know how many staff. I read before that it was a maximum of 3 staff during peak hours. I don't know what peak hours would be. You got 30-some people, you're going to control how much they're drinking with a maximum of 3 staff? I'm not sure it can be done. Also, comparison to the dentist office. I don't know about you, but I have never been to a dentist after 5 o'clock, maybe 6, certainly not till 2 a.m. So I don't like those comparisons. The dentist, while it may be more parking depending on the employees, but most people schedule their appointments at the dentist. You don't want to sit there and wait. You come in on time, you go in, and the next appointment comes. Thank you.
Next.
An awful lot of time was spent on parking. The biggest issue to me is the 19 hours. When the agreement was made with Solex College, I was told by a trustee that it was a 1-year lease. So we don't know if that's going to be extended, if in fact it's only 1 year. And what Mary said, no dentist is open for 19 hours. People sleep at night. People go to bed early. Some of them get up very early, and to have people walking around, smoking, being loud because of drinking. And the bottom line here is the petitioner wants to make money. Hey, I am a capitalist. I think that is fantastic. And God Almighty, if he went to the West End, he would have a built-in group of people. I mean, you go to those conventions for 4 or 5 days, and where do those people go? They go to Buca, they take a shuttle bus to Bob Chin's, they go to the Ram, and they sit there and they drink. My God, they can just walk out, they can go gamble a little bit, maybe have a bite to eat, they can have their 3 drinks. I don't see how you're going to enforce the drinks either. 19 hours is way too long for a residential neighborhood.
Anyone else? Sir, the last time we didn't get your last name. Please come up, we're not going to bite. If you give your last name again.
McConnell.
McConnell, thank you, sir.
Yes. I have a little problem with where he says it'll attract people from the neighborhood. I want to remind everybody that basically I've lived in that neighborhood for over 40 years. It's a working people's neighborhood. And as far as the neighborhood residents using that store, I choose my times to go up and use that grocery store very carefully because of the parking situation. And if you look at the items that are on the shelves, they're in languages, I don't even know what some of the languages are. The only one that I have any idea, even close, is a few of the items that are in German. But they're not attracting anybody from the immediate area there. They're coming from who knows where. I don't find people in there that speak a lot of English. I hear a lot of foreign language.
That's really not appropriate, sir. I understand where you're going, but that's really not appropriate.
Well,
for this conversation, okay?
I understand that.
Right. It's not
appropriate.
appropriate.
Just wanted to bring that point that I don't think that their establishment is going to, that the Stella's is going to attract people from this area.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
I just wanted to say that
You've got...
I just wanted to say that initially the store is going to be open for 19 hours or whatever. The gaming is going to be allowed for all that time?
Hold on one second. There's a condition in what we present to the village board that is not 19 hours. It's not 19 hours. It's 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday.
So
I don't
this
think any
gaming
of
is
those
gonna
add
be
up to
al-
19 hours.
All I'm saying, though, is, so therefore, from those hours, the gaming is going to be allowed.
Yes,
So people are going to be sitting in there for hours. And they're only going to be drinking 2 drinks, and they're only going to be eating the little bits of appetizer? I don't think so. Thank you.
is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Mr. Jennings, could you go through, does anybody else on the commission have anything to say? Not to say, discuss, didn't sound right. No? Okay, could you go through the conditions, please?
Okay, the draft motion has 8 conditions in it. Number 1, business shall be a restaurant with 31 seats, including 5 gaming terminals.
So is it 31 and 5 is actual 36 seats? Because if I look at the plan, it's actually 38. If you count those 5, that's 2.
Poofs.
It's 33.
Poofs.
Don't
It would
think
be at
we
the-
counted those the last time.
The motion would be at the discretion of the commission.
Well,
You know, you could,
I think we need to count those. Those are seats where people can.
this shows 5 in the back, so the 5 gaming, and then you've got
5, but then you've got the 5 poofs. Right, so that's 10.
So we're counting the poofs as seats.
Oh, I see.
Yes, I think we have to.
Okay. So you've
Mr.
got,
Chairman, can I throw something out?
Sure.
That I didn't think of before? What is stopping someone who is sitting at one of these gaming tables from having a friend sit next to them, which could conceivably add an additional 5 seats?
Well, that's what the poofs were for.
Right, that's what the poofs are for.
No, but I'm saying in addition to that.
Well, they would have to take a chair from someplace else.
Okay,
So
so
it's still,
we're counting chairs.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all we
Okay.
can do.
Okay, I just want to make sure there aren't any additional
Well, that's-
chairs hanging around that we're having additional people in here.
No.
Okay,
So I think we have to count those because that's what they're there for. I think they can be moved, right? Mr. Luff, they can be moved? Okay, thank you. So I think unless, I've counted it a couple of times, and
And did we count handicap seats? Because you got the blank side of the bigger table that I think on the previous plan was identified as handicap.
this side.
Yeah.
so as this plan shows, counting the 2 empty slots where a wheelchair could be pulled up, I believe we've got 32 seats that are shown in this dining room. And then 5 gaming seats and 5 poofs, which comes to 42. Now, the commission, I believe the last time, the idea was to reduce the number of seats
That's right.
to come up, I think, with a 31.
31. That's right.
Yeah, that, I mean, the 3 tables up front, we could get rid of those 6 pretty easily, so that would take you to, I think, 32, and that gets us close. I don't know if that helps or not, but that would be something we'd be,
Again, you're right.
if it was an issue.
We were looking for 31 it to be.
And we could probably get to 30, I mean, we can get to 31 for us, that's not a major concern.
Okay. So this plan has to be revised.
We can revise that for a plan of
before it goes
31.
to the, so it will be 31. It will be 31 established. Okay.
And that would be inclusive of gaming terminals?
Yes.
And
That's why we had including the 5 gaming terminals.
And
Right.
poof.
That's why, that's now
Yeah.
comes back to me. Yes. Okay, second condition.
Number 2 relates to the fire department's review, that the fire lane along the south side of the west building be restriped to reflect the shift in its location, and that would address the confusion about where the fire lane is actually located. Number 3, the parking stalls along the south building drive-through area be removed if in conflict with emergency access, and we believe that ends up being 6 total stalls. Number 4, that no one under 21 years of age shall be allowed in the establishment. Number 5, the designated smoking area shall be to the east of the unit in front of the liquor barn unit. Number 6, the hours of operation shall be limited to 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. midnight on Friday and Saturday. Number 7, the business enforce a drink maximum policy of 2 per hour and 3 total. Number 8, the business provide a trash receptacle outside the main entrance.
Any other comments? No? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Or a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dorban, second by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Dorband.
No for failure to meet the conditions of a special use.
Commissioner Johnson, I also vote no. Commissioner Powers?
No.
Commissioner Schaaf?
No.
Commissioner Stylen is absent. Chairman Rafano?
No.
And Commissioner Zangar is absent.
Okay, just for clarification, Commissioner Dorban voted no because of failure to meet special use. Commissioner Johnson, you're voting no?
The location in the neighborhood and the fact that they did not provide a new business proposal as part of this package. There's still some incompleteness to this, and obviously they have to revise the drawing now.
Right, okay, thank you. Commissioner Powers?
Mainly the location and not meeting the requirements of the special use.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Special use requirements and the concerns of the neighborhood.
And mine was again, I'm not, as I said the last time, I'm okay with the concept of gaming. It's just this special use here does not fit the character of the neighborhood. Thank you. Do we have to make a motion to close this?
It is a closed hearing already.
Okay, thank you. We are going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Do they have something to sign? Docket number 2013-9A and B, Title Max, 755 West Dundee Road, variation from Title 19 zoning related to minimum required parking, special use and site plan approval for a short-term lending facility. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2013-9A and B, Larry Friedman, attorney for Zacor Property Group LLC, property owner, is seeking the following for the property at 755 West Dundee Road, which is zoned MXT Transit-Oriented Mixed-Use District, in order to establish and operate a Title Max car title loan business. Docket 20139A is a variation from Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19.11, General Development Standards, Section 19.11.010, off-street parking and loading, Section E, Parking Standards, Subsection 1, Minimum Required Parking per Land Use Category, and associated sections to reduce the required parking for a short-term lending facility, and docket number 20139B, special use site plan approval as required under Chapter 19-05 Mixed Use and Overlay Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements, and associated sections to establish a short-term lending facility in the MXT Transit-Oriented Mixed Use District. The standards for a variation. The zoning variation is intended to be a method of adjustment to equalize regulations where Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning has created an unnecessary hardship. A variation is designed to allow affected property owners the same rights and privileges that others enjoy in the same zoning district. In order to be granted a variation, a petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the village code, including but not limited to how their individual situation is unique or unusual. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request for variation meets the standards established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board. The standards for a special use. A zoning special use, as defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning, is a use of a parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request for a special use meets the standards established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting material submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings, any comments?
No additional comments at this time.
If we could have the petitioners come forward. Is everybody going to be speaking tonight?
All three of us, yes.
Yes, so if you could please stand, I can do this all at once.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
I do.
Great, thank you. So if you could, first person up, give your name and working address would be fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Lawrence Friedman. My address is 77 West Washington Street in Chicago. That's my business address. I'm a partner with the firm of Ash, Hannos, Friedman, and Logan, and I am the attorney for the petitioner.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to initially provide for the record the affidavit of compliance with the notification requirement.
Thank you. Thank you. Give us your plan, sir.
Thank you. I represent Zacor Property Group LLC, which owns the shopping center known as Wheeling Plaza. I was before you, you'll recall, about 2 years ago. At the time, the center was converted from the former Ace Hardware use, which had been vacant, to the Advance Auto, which is the other tenant that we have in the center. At that time, we also believe we had to have a special use for that, and we also needed a parking variation because the Essential Center, when purchased by my client, although the building was renovated and changed, had already been constructed and laid out, and the number of parking spaces was always limited. They were limited when Advance went in. In fact, I think we actually added a few to what had been there for Ace Hardware. And one of the reasons that Advance was attractive as a user to us, and I think acceptable to the village, was that an actual parking analysis that we did then, and we did another one for you tonight, demonstrated that these particular proposed uses did not require the number of parking spaces that the code required, and that the center would work adequately based upon anticipated use. And that basically is the genesis for the parking study we did this time also. We have tried since constructing the Advance Auto, maybe 2 years ago, to lease that space. It would complete the center. It would only be the other tenant. And we've been totally unsuccessful in doing so. We've either found uses that would probably be too intense for the parking, unlike this one, and also the fact of just the location and configuration of the center has just not made it that attractive. We've had very little interest in the market for the 2 years. The proposal tonight is to allow for a Title Max, which is a licensed consumer installment lender. There may or may not be, since there are no other uses like that specifically in the village, there may or may not be an understanding of who Title Max is or what their operation is. So what I'd like to do initially is introduce Jeff Cermak from Title Max, so he can, first of all, give you an overview of the company itself, and then more specifically what the operation would be, both generally and in this proposed establishment if it were to be approved.
Hello, my name is Jeff Cermak, 319 Uvedale Road in Riverside, Illinois. I'm actually a contract worker for Title Max. I've been exclusively working for them for the last year and a half. 100% of my efforts are spent expanding their locations throughout the state of Illinois. Title Max is based out of Savannah, Georgia. They currently have about 1,200 stores. They employ about over 3,000 people in 12 different states. From 1,200 stores, their plan is probably to double their size, expanding into more states than they are right now. And currently, they have about 50 locations in Illinois. 25 of them are here in the Chicagoland area, and about the other half, I don't have an exact breakout, are in central Illinois and southern Illinois. Currently, they have locations nearby in Palatine. They have, we've opened up in Geneva, in St. Charles, in Glen Ellen, Naperville. We have 2 stores in Elmwood Park. They have 3 stores in, just to name a few off the top of my head of where they are going. We would like you to consider this for the Wheeling area. Our hours of operation typically are basically short. They're Monday through Saturday. They're closed on Sundays. They're open from 9 o'clock till 7 o'clock on the weekdays, and on Saturday, it's a little bit shorter time. I believe that is 10 to 4 at that time. Typically, they'll have 4 employees in the store at max times, 2 at off hours. They have a general manager, an assistant manager, and then 2 customer representatives, service people there that originate loans. The loans that they make are, and let me even state this, it's a state regulated through the Department of Illinois Department of Finance and Professional Regulation, who regulates this business. The maximum loan amount they make is a $10,000 loan. That is allowed by the state. However, company policy right now is a $4,000 loan. They're all short-term, and none of them extend more than 2 years. There certainly is a need in the community. My work with handling this is to open stores every 2 or 3 miles. So it is based on people that live in a community, and they basically cater to those people that are looking for short-term money, that don't have the means to go to a bank. A bank is not interested in lending $500 or $4,000. They're looking at higher mortgage type loans and whatever. And if they were to lend that type of those types of sums, it would take several weeks for them to process and get all their approvals. Our typical customer will come in and within a half an hour be approved on a loan and be on his way with his money. These are secured by car titles, so it's a secured loan. And let's see, what else can I explain on the product? They have a whole range of products within the store. They do publish their interest rates, and they will comply with whatever the village requires for any type of publishing of rates on what they do. Again, it's a very light user of parking because people will use it as a bill payment center. Bill payments coming in at a mature store is about 40 people a day, which is about a 5-minute transaction for them to drop off bills. Very interesting on who uses the use. It's a lot of times contractors that are making payroll. It's people with insurance claims that they're waiting for to take the tree off their roof or whatever it might be, as well as some other people that just don't have any other means to money, and they don't want to go to their brother-in-law. So they've done that too many times. So those are the needs. I was surprised doing site selection for several retailers. I was happy a year and a half ago when I started to do this work for TitleMax, thinking I've got a destination person, being a QSR, a quick serve restaurant background, and I've learned differently that it is a very convenience type of operation, that it's probably as they need the convenience of being on the main road, being where they can be seen, they can pull in and pull out in a short amount of time. A lot of times it is the contractor on his way to work. He's got to keep payroll going. He's got to buy supplies. He can come in this week, get the loan, next week pay it off. And so a lot of those type of short-term loans are going on where, you know, they need the convenience. I do want to stress that it is a very localized business. As I said, we want to open up about 200 stores in Illinois, probably 150 of those in the Chicagoland area, just for that convenience factor. I think as you consider this, the 3 points that I want to make, as Larry mentioned, we're going to absorb vacancy in a market where there is quite a bit of vacancy up and down Dundee Road. And that absorption is going to help you attract more tenants in the area. The other thing is that TitleMax makes a very, very large investment in their spaces that they locate, with building out the space very professional. On an average, they spend over $90,000 just to make a customer-friendly location. So that would be it. And then the third is what I've already touched upon, the fact that there is a need and a void in this market that we hope that we can fill for those people in that area that have that need access to funds, short-term, small loans. So, thank you.
Let me add one thing, I'd like you to answer. You're aware, are you not, that this kind of use under the Wheeling ordinance requires that there be posting of the information about the terms of the loan and so on? How is that going to be addressed?
Yeah, they will comply with whatever Wheeling wants, however they want that posted. Typically, it's posted inside stores, either through the brochures that they hand out or on marquee boards. They do have several products, and these products change, so it's something that they have to keep working on. But whatever the village would require in the various villages that we've entered, they will comply with whatever type of posting and what type of advertisement they need.
Thank you. I have one other witness I'd like to call, unless you want to.
Surely? No, that's what you're here for.
Thank you. Lynn Means, who's our traffic consultant who prepared the report, I believe you have, which addresses the parking situation, which obviously is the basis for the variation request.
Thank you.
I'd like her to just summarize the report.
Thank you. Mary, we have all of their names up here. You give your name, please, and your work address.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lynn Means. I'm a senior transportation engineer with Sam Schwartz Engineering, located at 3100 Higgins in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. As indicated, we conducted a parking study to determine the impact of the existing parking at the Wheeling Plaza in connection with the proposed Tidal Max facility. Based on village requirements, the existing advanced auto parts facility required 14 parking spaces. There's 30 parking spaces on site, and based on village requirements, the proposed Tidal Max facility would require an additional 30 parking space. Would require additional 30 parking spaces. Based on our experience for this type of facility, that appeared to be exceed what we would anticipate to be the parking demand for that type of facility. So we surveyed two of their existing facilities that they had mentioned. We surveyed the existing Palatine location, which is located on Dundee Avenue. It's approximately 1,700 square feet, a freestanding facility served by 18 parking spaces, and had similar operations, hours, and employees as the proposed facility. We also then looked at another similar location in Mount Prospect on Rand Road. That one was very similar to the proposed facility in that it was located within an existing retail shopping center, the Sunrise Plaza, about similar in size, 4,000 square feet. And that was served by a much larger parking facility of 68 spaces, but that plaza also contained a Sprint store, AAA, Hertz dental facility, as well as a Pizza Hut. Both locations were surveyed during peak times, a weekday time period, as well as a weekend time period, the Saturday time period. And based on the results of our analysis, we showed that each facility had a maximum parking demand of 4 to 5 parking spaces. So we would expect that the proposed facility would serve approximately 4 to 5 parking spaces. However, as we wanted to be conservative and to account for growth within the proposed facility, we took a conservative approach and determined a parking rate based on square footage. That was the number of parking spaces occupied and then divided it by the number of square feet of each facility. And we used the more conservative number, which essentially would triple the number of parking spaces that was accounted for. So assuming that even if the growth were to triple at each facility, there would still be adequate parking on site. We wouldn't anticipate there to be more than a maximum of 13 parking spaces needed for the proposed Tidal Max facility. And with the 14 spaces allocated for the advanced auto parts, we would assume a maximum parking demand of 27 spaces where there's 30 spaces available. And even then, so that doesn't account for, again, a shared parking type situation where the advanced auto parts demand would be at a different time period than the Tidal Max facility.
Thank you.
We're available, all of us, to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Well, my first question about parking was...
Commissioner Johnson, I forgot. This is a public hearing.
Oh.
Excuse me. I forget some of these things.
Public.
Is there, I know you are. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this? No, there's not, so continue on.
You scared me for a minute.
Okay, as I was saying, I think you've covered, my first question was the typical amount of time customers are in there, a half hour to set up a loan?
Well, for drop-off payment, it's usually just just a couple minutes, they're in and out, they put it in their ledger and they're good and they're gone. To get a loan approved, my understanding is that it is under a half an hour. They advertise 15 minutes, but, so I would say half an hour would be a very fair statement.
Okay. And when they get these loans, are they cash transactions, or you
No, they
write them a
don't
check?
handle cash, it'll be a check.
Okay. 'Cause I was thinking security issues there. And does the village get any revenue out of this? Is this something?
This is a loan office, so
Well,
they
there
are
would-
not cash
Well,
registered
there wouldn't be a
retail.
sales tax. There'd be license fees, obviously.
Oh, okay.
And obviously, if the building were occupied, the real estate taxes would be at full value. If the building weren't, they're probably reduced.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some questions on the special use.
Sure.
There are any number of lending institutions within the village, although a car title place would be unique in this location. As you said, it is a regulated industry. When I read the regs, the title, or for this type of operation, the limit was not 10,000, but 4,000. Title 38, and
And I know that I thought it may be true. I may have that wrong. I thought it was 10,000.
Well, when
our company has a 4,000
yeah,
policy.
when I read it, it was for
Okay,
4,000.
so it's even lower.
I have to tell you, Mr. Schaaf, I haven't read those regulations. I didn't see a reason to, but I can check them out. But in as much as they don't lend more than 4, it may be an academic point.
Right, it could be, just, but.
We believed it to be 10, but you may be right.
Yeah, when I read them prior to the meeting.
We work multi-state, so it might be, I may have picked
I
that
understand.
up off of another state.
Yeah, it's not a problem, but I'm just saying, you don't intend to go above the $4,000 anyway.
No.
Okay.
Well, if that's the law, we
State,
Yeah, but
state
we'll
regs
check.
say that you're not going to go. The other part that I read in that is that you are limited to an interest rate of not more than 36%. That seems awful high.
I don't think, well, explain your interest rate structure.
Well, and again, I'm real estate, and I don't have intimate knowledge of what every loan program is and what they're doing it as what a customer service rep would have. But obviously, it depends on how you calculate it and you annualize it. If somebody comes in for $1,000, waits and pays it off in a week and a half, and they pay whatever back on that, that would be a huge rate when you annualize it out with that. So I really don't know how to I can't pinpoint rates because I'm not in that.
Would you characterize it primarily as credit card?
Yeah,
rates?
it's like a credit card carry on something like that.
But the regs do state you're not allowed to charge more than an annualized percentage of 36%. I just state that.
Okay, and I'm not familiar with
All
that.
right.
Again, I'm
It's
not.
it's just a high interest rate.
Well, clearly these loans are at a higher interest rate than
And
many
as
other loans.
as well they should be.
We understand that. If it would be helpful, look, we can try and get a rate schedule of what they typically charge on transactions to submit to staff, assuming you're going to make a recommendation tonight before this goes to the board, or whatever staff would suggest.
But the state regulation is not more than 36%.
I understand,
I'm just saying, it is high.
I believe we're under that, obviously, but that, again, as in the case of the maximum number of the amount that could be lent, the state regulation would fix the maximum.
Yeah, and another point on the state regulation is you have to be income verified. You have to verify the income. That's a regulation. It can be no more than 50%. The installment, or the installment cannot be more than 50% of the gross of the monthly income.
Well, I don't.
So if a man makes $100 a month,
right,
you can't charge him $51. It's got to be at 50%
It
or
would
less.
have to meet, obviously would have to meet the statutory requirements, and since they're regulated and licensed, they clearly would have to.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm just stating that. I think you alluded to how you were going to present your loan terms.
Well,
either brochure or...
What we alluded to was, as I understood it, your ordinance has a specific requirement.
Yes.
That these be posted. We're amenable to doing in any fashion that the village thinks is appropriate. That's all he was
Okay, as long as you are aware of that.
We are aware of it, and we have no difficulty with it.
Okay. Another question is, in the payment of the loans, will you have a drop box?
I don't think they have that. They come during open hours.
They come during open hours and they have to see a representative?
Right.
Okay. 40 to 50 people in a month is, if you spread that out, is a nice little even figure, but they seem to congregate. People who pay off loans usually pay them when they get paid. So that seems to put a little pressure on the parking, although I'm not really, and this is 2 years down the road, and it does put a little bit of pressure on the parking. My concern is not so much the parking, but the congestion of Dundee traffic.
Well, I would only comment that as part of doing the parking analysis, as the parking consultant indicated, they observed the operation of two facilities. And I mean, she can expand on this, but that level of congestion was not observed, I'm assuming. But why don't you comment on that?
Yeah, neither facility had significant traffic or parking generation for there. We observed them on a weekday between the hours of 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., as well as a Saturday during 12 p.m. to 4 p.m.
And if you stood outside of Advanced Auto Parts and looked at that Dundee traffic, when it's coming down there, because of the lane configuration, I brought this up when Advanced Auto Parts came through, and it's a simple solution with an auto parts store. If you are westbound on Dundee Road, you are not going to stop at Advanced Auto Parts. You're going to go a block down and go to AutoZone. If you're eastbound traffic, you are not going to stop at AutoZone and make a left turn in there when you can stop at Advanced. With Titlemax, you're not going to be able to do that. You stop one car into going into the cleaners, the donut shop, Advanced Auto Parts, Titlemax, you back up traffic for a block, 2 blocks, and during heavy congestion, heavily traveled, and Dundee is very, very heavily traveled, you block it all the way up to the railroad tracks and beyond. And it is a mess. I just point that out. Okay, the traffic study has to look at that traffic. Until they widen Dundee Road to put in a turn lane, as they have out here.
But this type of facility doesn't generate the volume of sheer traffic that would generate a turn lane for that. Its peak hour traffic is at a minimal over the course of an hour.
One person going into that location to pay off a loan is going to back up traffic for 2 blocks.
But the problem you have is you have a retail use there. That's what it's zoned for.
Yes.
It was always retail. It was when it was a hardware store.
Right.
All right. And your theory, and you may be right, was that in as much as there are alternatives to the automotive use, you won't get the same problem because someone presumably won't want to go to that particular use. But any use we put in there, and admittedly we've been very unsuccessful in getting any, but any use that goes in there, unless it, like your auto example, has an alternative, is going to make that turn.
Yeah.
All right. And it appears to me, based on what the numbers that we're getting in our account, this is a very low intensive use. It's probably going to be lower in intensity than any other retail use you're going to put in there.
I understand, but I'm just saying, the parking being an issue, which I'll at face value, what you've said is 13 parking spots.
Yes.
I submit that the bigger problem is that Dundee Road traffic.
I don't doubt that, but all I'm saying is if this weren't the use that goes in there and you get a different retail use, and you're correct about Dundee Road, and I assume you are, you're more likely to get more of a backup from a different kind of retail user with greater intensity.
Yeah, but you're putting another business in, and I'm just saying it's just going to add to that congestion.
Well, some business has to go there.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. We've touched on the high congestion area. I think I've touched on just about everything that I wanted to say, especially about the traffic area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorban.
Thank you. One of the questions that staff brought up, could you, I know that you have this, could you address those issues that are the staff made?
I do have the report. I'm not sure which one. Specifically, where is your reference, please?
6.
Well, I just want to make sure we're doing this for the record so that we have a record of it. How the petitioner intends to satisfy the requirements, which you addressed.
I see it now. Thank you.
Okay.
We will work with staff, and however the staff feels it is appropriate to properly post these requirements to make most customers aware of them and make them readily accessible and visual, we will do. We have no difficulty in whatever the recommendation would be. Rather than work out the logistics of that tonight, I would just suggest if this moves forward, that we talk to staff and whatever is recommended, we're willing to do.
Just not to interrupt you, sir, but I think Commissioner Dorban and the rest of us would probably like that decision.
Pardon me?
I would like to see that decision tonight.
Well, we thought we would post it as he indicated in the form of readable signs that show the programs and the amounts in a format where the programs could be, it readily could be changed based upon a change in programs and would be prominently displayed. Now, if it's felt that something more than that has to be done, we're amenable to doing it.
Does that have to be in the window or?
I think that I would interpret that as being available in the customer area. They've got
I don't think you want it in the window. We don't mind it, but the window makes it a sign. I think you'd rather have it internally for the people who are using it.
So a reader board within the customer area?
That would be fine.
Yes, a reader board, okay, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
All right, that's quite all right. Whether a payment drop box or slot is required, we don't propose one, and I think the testimony indicated that. Employee parking in the lot to the east of the building, we have no problem in designating that area for employee parking. Signage to indicate location of parking for the subject unit, that can be provided also. We are agreeable to that. And whether the traffic study considers the projected number of visitors once the business is established, and if so, whether the timing is expected to be spread throughout the day. I think Ms. Means testified that her projections were based to allow even an expansion of 3 times the business. And there would still be adequate. And the timing as to expected during time of day, what would you say?
In as much as...
Spread out throughout, people coming to pay their bills, there's no particular...
No, there's really...
If you could speak to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't believe that there's any really peak time over any other time. It's just a convenience factor as various people, whether they're getting off of shifts or whatever they're doing when they come by to drop off payment, different points, and they have different programs and different frequencies that they come in. So
It would be spread out throughout the day.
I would say it'd be spread out throughout the day.
I'd like to go back to on the same area. On number 5, the comments from staff, could we address those as well?
I'm not sure I follow your question. Are you talking about the point 5 that I read, whether the study considers a projected number?
Right.
I thought I did. I
Okay.
thought the traffic consultant indicated that she was projecting a business tripling in size.
Okay. I just want to make sure that that we're covering all our bases here. I guess I'm coming at this a little differently because I'm a little concerned about the rates that you're charging, and we probably can't, I don't know if that's under our umbrella or not. It's probably not, but I just want to make sure that those are very, very clear to folks when they walk in. As a credit union director, I'm very sensitive to meeting the needs of people who are coming in to get a loan.
Well, first of all, I understand that. And first of all, as we indicated in my response to Commissioner Schaaf's question, these rates are higher than they would be under other loan circumstances, and that's obvious. But this is a regulated industry, and it's by the state of Illinois. And they regulate, as we've indicated earlier tonight, not just the amount, but the maximum rate that can be allowed. The village has gone even further as part of its special use process for this particular use to indicate that there has to be a disclosure in a posted form which apprises the borrower immediately of what he would be paying and what the options are. And we've indicated, and we will continue to indicate, when we go to that form, if it turns out that after the fact that there's some dissatisfaction with the methodology, we're glad to revisit it and redo it. So one may have an inherent feeling about these kinds of loans. Are they prudent? Should people make them? I don't know that that's within the purview of the state, the village, or anybody. I think all one can do is decide if this is a niche in the marketplace and there is a need for it, and it's adequately regulated, is this an appropriate location for it?
Well, certainly going back to the parking study and everything, we've gotten ourselves into so much trouble with parking variations that, even with a traffic study and someone sitting there watching it, I really am very concerned, and I understand the point that they haven't been able to rent this particular piece of property, but the economy has not been great either to produce somebody to come in and want to take over this piece of property. So, that certainly the variation on the parking has got me very concerned.
Well, let's put it in context of this particular site. When I was before you in 2011, and for the Advance Auto, we discussed the fact that we were not starting with a fresh site. We were starting with a site that had a certain number of cars on it, and that the Ace Hardware had survived rather well as a full-scale retail business with a less amount of cars than the ordinance then called for. And as part of the Advance Auto approval, we put on really a similar presentation, and not only talked about what Advance Auto would utilize, but if and when we filled this other spot, although we didn't have this user in mind, what it would utilize. Yeah, this spot, the way it's designed with that existing building, it's going to require a parking variation, no matter who your user is. And what you have to do, I think what one has to do is say, okay, if that's the case, then you better make sure your user isn't a high-scale parking user. Because obviously we all know I couldn't put a restaurant in there. I mean, if I came in to try to justify that, there'd be no way to do it. So this is the spot we own, this is the spot that's already here, and this is the spot that was built this way before my client bought it. I think we've been very sensitive to finding users for which a variation will work, because they're not highly intense. And if this use doesn't go in and we have to go to admittedly, the market may be better, there may be other users in the future, but I think they might very well, if they're more retail in nature, be a greater parking demand generator than these two uses, and then we might really have a problem, because then the variation might not be justified.
Yeah, see, I'm just not convinced that we won't find somebody that would go into that spot that wouldn't require a variation.
Everybody else has.
Yeah,
I mean, they really have.
If I may make one more comment on that too, is that I mentioned earlier that this company is very, very conscious about the customer experience, and this is a convenience business for them. As a real estate person, I have to make sure that there's 4 parking spaces for them to do their business in. That's an internal policy. So that's the type of a company that has scrutiny and wants to make sure that they're servicing their customer well. They feel that they can run their business, and I'm not saying that it should, but just internally understand that I can get sites approved with 4 parking spaces for a company that feels that they need to service their customer with convenience. That's the quickness and the amount of parking utilization they use in a store. Sure, they'd rather have 10 spaces, but they will approve it at 4, just because that's such a low impact user on that. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it won't do really well and that we'd end up with a parking problem down the road. That concerns me, and we've had parking issues before, so that's my main concern. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I assume that the lease you would sign would be contingent upon, them coming in to the village and having it approved by the village board and stuff like that. If that's the case, do you know, how long of a lease would they be going for typically?
It is a 5-year lease.
It is a 5-year lease. Okay.
And there are 2 options.
There are 2 options to renew.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I think in this one, there's only one option to renew.
Okay.
One option to renew.
I guess this question is maybe for Andrew. If we approve the parking reduction from 31 to 16, what happens if the business ceases to exist? Does it go back and, we come back and have this discussion again if necessary for the next tenant?
It is possible to phrase a parking variation. It's unusual, but it is possible to phrase a parking variation specifically and narrow it to a plan set, narrow it to as shown on the business description. So it is possible to not indefinitely allow reduced parking for any use.
Okay, that's something I just thrown out. I'm not really sure what I want to do with that. Thank you for the traffic study. It was really very helpful. Have you talked to the grocery store to the west of you to let them know, you may be, Title Max may be coming in or use?
All right, we mailed notices. I don't know if they get one or not.
Okay. Okay.
If they're a tenant, they didn't. If they're an owner, they did. I mean, that's the way your ordinance works.
Being new to the commission, is there any kind of a floor plan for this that we need to look into at all? Or anything we need to review as far as that?
There is no specific requirement for it. To answer your previous question, yes, they did receive a notice. They are listed as an owner. The reason that you typically see a floor plan with some of the other special uses is they have a specific number of seats, they have a number of operational considerations that would appear on a floor plan. We don't have a specific experience with this type of facility. There is no code requirement that I could think of other than capacity that it would relate to.
Unlike a restaurant, for example, where like you had earlier tonight, where you'd want to count the seats.
Okay. Just in general signage, I guess if this was an approved use, you would put like a sign on the facade of the building?
That's our plan, whatever the code would allow.
Okay, and then I noticed that, I'm not sure the advanced auto part, I mean, I've seen the sign, is there like room for like another tenant to go on that sign at all? I don't know.
I believe there is.
And would it be your intent to put your name on there also, along with the sign on the facade?
Yes, it would.
On the monument sign.
On the monument sign and on the facade, I think.
Okay, so if this were to be approved, then you'd be coming back with some signs for us to take a look at, correct?
If that requires a plan commission, well, I wasn't aware of that, then of course we would.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Yes. One quick clarification. You had mentioned in your opening remarks something about the state regulatory agency. Could you repeat what the agency was again?
Well, I actually had in my file a
It's the
copy.
Illinois Department of Finance and Professional Regulation under financial institutions.
It's under
actually-
financial
here,
institutions?
We're considered financial institutions.
Here, you know what? It may be in the package, but here's an actual copy.
I thought you had mentioned a specific license type that
Yeah, this
it must
says
have been the financial.
State of Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, Division of Financial Institutions. And it says that pursuant to the Consumer Installment Loan Act, this is a regulated company, and they name the company in here. In fact, this says, and this is dated December 31, 2012, this is a certification under a license number CI 3761. The name on it is Title Max of Illinois, Inc., and it says they have complied with the licensing requirements of that act. And that is in fact the license that has been issued by the state.
Thank you.
Anything more?
That's it.
I'm going to focus on the special use, and it's Mr. Cermak, is that what it is? Yeah. You mentioned that this fills a void in this area, and I have to tell you that this is not a void that I want to fill. You are these types of operation, you're going after a person's car title that they use as collateral to get a $1,000 loan, and that is not something, or $4,000 loan maximum. That is not something I want in my village, and I know that they can drive down the street to Palatine and get that, but I think if it gives them an opportunity to drive, they might think about that this is the car that they need to get to work in. I think this is not, I think this is injurious to the neighborhood, the whole neighborhood, and I call this the neighborhood, the village of Wheeling, more so than the neighborhood that's right around the said property. It's just not, to me, I'm speaking for myself, that is something that I personally would want to see within the village. I understand, and from a special use standpoint, this, the special use, if, statewide is necessary for public convenience at proposed location, okay? And public convenience, I want to make this type of facility as inconvenient as possible. This is not something that I personally want to see. Those are ridiculous interest rates that that people sign up for that don't know what they're signing up for, and that's taking advantage of people. I've done searches on the web of Title Max, and I could probably do them on every one of the companies that are out there. And there are so many complaints because people don't know what they're doing, and they have to think about that. It's not a use that I want to see here or actually anywhere in the village. I understand the parking, and the parking is an issue that will be there as you've indicated, and but what takes more a prominent role with me is the special use.
May I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
All right. Obviously, I'm not going to change your mind. I understand that. I think with all due respect, I understand your personal opinion, and I knew.
Well, but my opinion, I think I'm speaking for the village when I do that, because that's what I'm up here for.
Well, I understand that, but I don't believe that the purpose of establishing special use standards, which set forth a series of standards under which a particular use can exist in the village, and try and regulate that particular use, in this case, by having certain disclosures and so on. I don't think it's appropriate then to say that that is a use that doesn't belong anywhere in the village, no matter what the circumstances, because I believe candidly it's contrary to what your ordinance does. What your ordinance says is, yes, you can have it here, provided you don't have an impact like arguably we saw in the last case where neighbors were arguably affected. This is, if you're not going to have this use in the village, your ordinance shouldn't have it as a special use or a conditional use or a permitted use.
And we might have to go back and change our code to.
You may,
and I
but
may
we're
have to
operating
do
under your
that.
current code.
Sure, you are.
And if you're going to have it in the village,
right.
This is the most least impacted location you could have it. It's not near a neighborhood. It's not near a school. It's not affecting other property owners. I mean, look, no one came here tonight. We've noticed everybody around. The question was about.
That's why we have to represent the village and what I think.
I understand, but
right.
I think if you don't want this use anywhere, you have to have a different ordinance.
Right, and as a matter of fact, I'm bringing that up in my next workshop.
I understand.
Yep, thank you.
One of the things I may say too is that Title Max Services, we're not the largest title-owned company. There's about 5 or 6 larger. They service about 400,000 customers right now. And, like with any business, I'm sure you're going to get complaints. I used to be a site selector for Starbucks, trying to get drive-thrus approved. We charge too much for coffee. And it's still, I didn't know, I agree. I think Starbucks charges too much for coffee. My cup's gone. I went to McDonald's for $1. It was my choice on what to do. And there are a lot of success stories too, where it's keep your tenants from seeing their furniture out on the front yard because they're not being evicted. It's gotten people tuition payments, kept their kids in school. The big one is a lot of insurance people, people waiting for the insurance claim, where they didn't have, it's low credit people. You would not give it to them in their credit union because their credit doesn't come out to an 800 score. So they need a car to get to work, and their car just is in the shop getting fixed because of an accident. They can come in and use that money to deposit on the car so they can rent a car and keep their job. So there's a lot of good stories that go along with this too. Thank God I've never had to go and pay those rates, and probably people in this room don't have to, but I think we have to consider those people that this is how they're going to keep things going. I don't think they're going to run to the gaming place. They're going to go borrow $4,000 and run over to Stella's and play the machines. There's a reason that they're in there, and they need those funds. So, and yes, they can drive to Palatine or to Glen Ellen or some other place. It's a very innocuous use. People don't even know you're there until they need it. I mean, and the people that go by, they don't even know the signs are there and what's going on until they really come down to the point where, I've got an emergency, I've got a medical use or whatever it is. So that's one of the things, and I agree with you. Thank God I've never been in a situation that I've had to use that. But I think there are people that truly their lives are changed and they stay, on track with getting something done. And there's other people that you can't protect them from themselves no matter what you do and how much you want to train them, how much you want to post things and how much you regulate them. You're still going to run into that group of people, and you'll probably see things, complaints about Starbucks, complaints about this company too. So that's just a little bit of where sometimes there's a misconception, and I agree. I think we're all from the same, cut somewhat from the same cloth, but fortunately I don't think people in this room always are going to, hopefully won't run into a situation where they have to use it, but thank God it's there when they do. So that's
Thank you.
My
Thank
point.
you. Does anybody else have any other comments?
Just one thing on the staff recommended action, the signage to indicate location of parking. What was your thought there to have I
didn't have a specific idea, but if you look at this plan, the entrance to the grocery store is right about here. The entrance to the proposed Title Max is right about here. So the most convenient spaces kind of overlap a little bit. So if there's one of the possibilities that was discussed is maybe there's a couple of days a month where people are getting paid and they come make their payments. If there is a need to be concerned about congestion, there's very limited parking next door. The parking for this center is heavily concentrated in this area. So some sort of indication right around here that the parking ends and that they should be parking east of that point.
So should we put a condition in that says that for this facility that they have to park on the east side?
The way I've drafted it, gives some flexibility. It says the petitioner shall install signage indicating the western limit of the parking area.
Okay.
And so how they intend to do that,
That's an acceptable condition.
Yeah, I don't know how they word that, but.
I mean, it could be more or less a standard parking sign. It could be on the wall, perhaps, that parking for this,
Title Max only.
so that it doesn't fall in the grocery store.
Right.
To put a sign in their window to say, please don't
Right.
park in my lot.
Okay, I was just wondering what the thought process there was. That's all, thanks.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions, let's take these two motions separately. So the first motion is for variation from Title 19 zoning related to minimum required parking. Do I hear a motion? Do I have a motion?
I have just one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Based on the
I want you to read the conditions.
Based on the discussion,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
9A being the variation, there was a concern, I don't know if there's a consensus of the commission, but I did add it just in case. The variation shall expire should the business as described in docket number 2013-9B cease operation.
That's good. So we have a motion. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Or a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Dorban. Commissioner Johnson?
Commissioner Johnson votes yes. Commissioner Dorband?
No.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaaf?
No. No.
Commissioner Stilen is absent, as is Commissioner Zangara. So Chairman Rafato?
No.
Okay, we have 2 yes, 3 no, 2 absent for the parking variations.
So,
And then 2013-9B.
you have some conditions.
Several. And these, again, I need a consensus. I was drafting them on the fly based on the discussion. Number 1, that the loan payments and terms be displayed prominently on a board in the customer area, including samples of late payments and maximum amounts. Number 2, that employees shall park in the east lot. Number 3, petitioner shall install signage indicating the western limit of the parking area. And number 4, that the business shall be a licensed and regulated lending facility under the authority of the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulations as a title-secured lender.
Does that last one have to be a condition? I mean, isn't that part of their business?
It's part of the business description. I think just for clarification of if you have a special use for short-term lending, there may be more than one type of short-term lending.
Okay.
And in this special use, does it expire? Should we put a condition in there for the special use expiring?
And we've done that in the past.
Yes.
And number 5, that the special use shall expire should the petitioner, Title Max, cease operation.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dorban, seconded by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Dorband?
No.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, I say yes. Commissioner Schaaf?
No.
Commissioner Stilen and Commissioner Zangara are absent. Chairman Rafato?
No.
Again, 2 yes, 3 no, 2 absent.
Need a motion to close.
Hear a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
And just for procedural, if there's anyone watching, following along at home, this is a recommendation that will be forwarded to the village board.
Go ahead.
This will be forwarded to the village board. The village board is the ultimate voting authority on this action, and this recommendation will be considered by them at a date that we'll confirm with the petitioner. You can check the agenda posted online or call our office if you have questions about the scheduling, and we'll be in touch with you about the scheduling of that.
And before I forget, for those that voted no, I would like to know your reasons for voting no for the variation in the special use, Commissioner Dorban,
Well, parking.
and then on the special use.
I just don't think it's an appropriate use for that area.
Thank you. Commissioner Schaaf, you voted no also?
Based on special use?
You voted no on parking?
On the parking, I think there's too much congestion and traffic considerations.
Okay, and for the special use?
And for special use, I don't believe they fulfilled the special use requirements.
Right. Okay, thank you. And I voted no on the parking, and again, I feel the same way about the parking, that it just doesn't work there. And then the special use, I just didn't think that they fulfilled all of the uses for special use. Thank you.
We have a copy of the decision sheet for you.
I'll get these, Andrew. Oh, you do you? Okay. Approval of minutes for May 9th.
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Other business, Commissioner Dorban.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to publicly thank Tony Stavros and his group. They were Johnny on the spot. I called in on a couple of tripping hazards in the village, and they were promptly out there within 24 hours, so I thank them for that. The other question I had, Mr. Jennings, in the Napa Shopping Center, there is a cell phone store. Would it be possible for someone to check out the signage on the window? I believe it exceeds what our standard is.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
I have nothing, thanks.
Commissioner Schaaf.
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
Couple of quick things. Save a Lot, they got a lot of signage there. Is that right? I mean, they got a lot of stuff. You can't even see in their front window.
Couple of things on that. Grocery stores do have a different window coverage requirement, maximum, than other types of businesses. So they would fall under that. Of course, there still is a limit. We could check it against the limit.
Okay.
And there is one, I believe they have one temporary sign that we need to double check and see if it is part of their approved package. I think they have one banner at the west end of the building that I don't recall being part of their approval.
Okay. The other thing is Jiffy Lube on Wolf Road in Dundee. The awning looks terrible. I mean, the paint is peeling, and and they just, I don't know, they remodeled it, I don't know, a year or two ago. Looks awful.
Yeah, was the new color the brown or the red?
I think it was the red.
It was the red.
And it's
like
it's
50-50
gone.
now.
The amount of paint deterioration that they had in the last week, to me, and this is just my guess, looks like they intentionally started to remove it because it was not nearly that bad.
It was probably about a month ago it was, but I didn't want to say anything. It just...
it had the appearance that they looked like they were about to repaint it. If they are
Okay.
not actually about to repaint it, then they certainly need to.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Andrew, will an agenda be coming out for the workshop next week? Just a reminder, workshop next week, it will most likely be at Public Works, probably 6:30.
Yes, it is. The board packet for today listed as, I believe, 6:30 and 77 West 10th, which is the Public Works building. The agenda will be out tomorrow, I would say probably around noon.
Okay.
And you should all be on the list now that lets you know that the agenda is posted.
Okay, great. And then on the northeast corner of Wheeling Road and Palatine Road, northeast corner, the grass is so high you can barely see the building anymore. And it's a great field of dandelions. It looks like it's for sale, and I had thought...
Isn't that the one we rezoned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like there's any activity there.
We can, it is for sale, and we can, I'm not sure who the inspector is for the area off the top of my head, but I can talk to the inspectors and make sure that it is very likely that it has received a notice already.
Yeah,
If it's
I'm
that
sure.
high.
You know, and it could have been cut this week, because I think I saw it maybe Saturday. And go that way after that, so if that could be checked, great, thank you. And that's all I had.
I
Do you have anything?
I have one quick question. We are publishing a amendment to Title 19 zoning for the first meeting in June. I received a request, suggestion from a shopping center owner today. It doesn't necessarily help their particular situation, but still an interesting request. I wanted to just run it by the commission real quick since we're about to publish amendment. The suggestion was made that special uses which have expired due to lack of activity, so a vacancy, a shopping center with something like a restaurant in the shopping center could possibly benefit from a different reinstatement process. Right now, it's brand new. It's basically brand new. If you have a restaurant that's closed and it's only been closed a few months, we can do it administratively right now. The business would have to sign off on the old legislation and agree to operate it in the same way as the previous restaurant. After 6 months, we lose that ability. So what the shopping center management suggested was perhaps there's some way to have that be more than 6 months. It's not an unknown quantity. You've had a restaurant in that location. It's in a established, and if they would operate it exactly the same as the previous, perhaps more than 6 months would be warranted, or some sort of other administrative type of approval without requiring, the typical special use is probably about 60 days for them to be able to finalize a lease.
So it's 6 months now?
After 6 months, they would have to start over, basically as a brand new.
Well, we did that for a purpose, I would assume. And I'm of the opinion to leave it the way it is.
I am too.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Commissioner
Leave it.
Bowden? Yeah. Yep, okay, great. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, can I, one more thing?
Sure.
Monday night, I heard President Argyris make a recommendation that they not have some meetings in July. As long as they're not going to be here, we won't have any business to give them, and they wouldn't be able to approve it. Is there any thought about canceling some of our meetings in July?
You want a vacation? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Did you hear that, Mr. Johnson? I mean,
Just a thought.
could you look into it?
It would be, the delay is probably the opposite, so it'd be canceling June, not July. If you're looking to have it match, we send our late June items go to their July meetings. So we could
They're
knock out-
going to be, the first 3 weeks, I think they're going to be in session, and the last 2 weeks, they want to cancel.
Of July?
And that's what they approved. So it would seem.
So then it would be the beginning of July for us.
Right.
Yes.
Well, we have a workshop next week, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd bring it up to everybody kick around and think about.
Okay. So, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No.